Wyndham Clark just won $3.6 million and one of the biggest titles of his career, but instead of pure celebration, he walked straight into a fresh round of cheating accusations. This isn't the first time either. Tonight we're breaking down exactly what happened on the course at the BMW Championship, what commentators and fans noticed in real time, and how Clark responded when he finally addressed it directly. Let's start with the win itself, because it was genuinely one of the more dramatic finishes we've seen on tour this year. Clark went into the back nine of Sunday's final round at Bellerive Country Club in St. Louis, having blown a 5-shot lead, with Rory McIlroy and other contenders closing in fast. Instead of folding under that pressure, Clark responded by birdieing his final 3 holes to close out the tournament, claiming his third PGA Tour victory of the 2026 season and walking away with the $3.6 million first-place prize. It was a genuinely impressive display of composure under pressure, the kind of finish that should have been the entire story of the day. But it wasn't, because of what happened a few holes earlier on the 14th. Clark's tee shot on 14 found the rough well right of the fairway, leaving him a tricky 173-yard approach into a back left pin. As he assessed the shot, television cameras caught him pulling out multiple different clubs, one after another, and setting each one down behind the ball in the deep rough as he tried to figure out his options. According to Golf Digest, one person online counted at least 9 separate instances of Clark placing his club down in the grass during that sequence. The CBS broadcast team picked up on it in real time. Analyst Trevor Immelman commented on air, saying, quote, "He's taking a long look at this. This is like the 3rd club that he's placed down behind the ball there." Fellow analyst Frank Nobilo followed that up, responding, quote, "So the lie might be better." That exchange, happening live on the broadcast, is really what set off the firestorm. Under Rule 8.1 of the rules of golf, a player is not permitted to improve the conditions affecting their stroke, and one of the ways that can happen is by pressing down the grass behind the ball enough to make the lie easier to play from. Simply grounding a club isn't automatically a violation on its own. The question always comes down to whether the action actually altered the lie in the player's favor. But once Immelman and Nobilo's comments aired, combined with the sheer number of times Clark had set his club down, golf fans on social media didn't wait for any kind of official review. The accusations started flying almost immediately, and it became one of the biggest talking points of the entire tournament, even as Clark went on to make par on the hole and eventually complete his winning charge. Clark ultimately wasn't penalized for the incident, but given how the moment played out live on air and how quickly it spread online, it was clear he was going to have to address it publicly sooner rather than later. That moment came Tuesday, when Clark met with reporters at East Lake ahead of this week's Tour Championship, and he didn't dodge the question. When asked directly about what he was thinking while repeatedly tapping down the rough with different clubs, Clark laid out his explanation in detail. He said, quote, "I think any player, when they're trying to judge a lie, takes out different clubs to see what it feels like. I never fully put the club down behind it. I don't think anything of it." He continued, explaining the lie itself wasn't actually a bad one to begin with, saying, quote, "That lie was never bad. It was more just judging what it was. By no means did I take a bad lie and make it really good." Then came the line that's now being quoted across golf media everywhere. Clark said, quote, "People can think what they want. I know I didn't do anything that was costing the integrity of the field. That's all I've got to say about that." Clark also pushed back on the idea that this was some kind of deliberate rules violation, pointing to how modern broadcast cameras can distort the way routine actions look to viewers at home. He referenced the recent scrutiny Bryson DeChambeau faced at last month's Open Championship, where DeChambeau was actually assessed a 2-shot penalty for improving his lie in the high grass during the 2nd round. Clark said, quote, "I think you saw that in Bryson's case. It happened to me at the US Open. It happened to me at Bay Hill. It's happened to a lot of guys where they can see stuff that maybe looks like something that maybe it's not." That comment is actually really important context, because this isn't the first time Clark himself has dealt with this exact type of accusation. This past June, during the final round of the US Open at Shinnecock Hills, where Clark went on to win his 2nd career US Open title, a PGA Tour caddy named Brent Henley posted video online of Clark rehearsing a practice swing in the rough, writing bluntly on social media, quote, "I think Wyndham Clark cheats here." Clark was not penalized in that instance either. And it goes back even further than that. Back at the 2024 Arnold Palmer Invitational at Bay Hill, television cameras caught Clark pressing his club into the rough behind his ball on the 18th hole during the third round, with footage appearing to show the ball move slightly as a result. Golf Channel analyst Brandel Chambly was openly critical of the situation at the time, saying, quote, "The ball clearly moved. He clearly didn't ground the club lightly." Clark wasn't penalized on that occasion either, but he did address it directly afterward, saying, quote, "I'm not cheating or anything like that or trying to improve my lie." Obviously, they zoom in, and it makes it look worse. So what we're really looking at here is a third separate incident, across 3 different tournaments, over roughly 2 years, where television cameras have caught Clark in a moment that sparked cheating accusations, and each time, he's walked away without an actual penalty, while still having to publicly defend himself afterward. It's also worth pointing out that Clark used part of Tuesday's press conference to speak more broadly about how he's perceived by fans on tour right now. When asked how he copes with crowds who are often actively rooting against him, Clark said, quote, "I'm enjoying how the year is going. You know what's funny is I've now had 6 wins, and I think in all 6 of those wins I was never the crowd favorite. I always heard other people's cheers. Maybe one day I'll be who everyone is rooting for." He specifically noted that fans in St. Louis weren't hostile toward him personally, saying he was simply up against Rory McIlroy, a player who tends to draw overwhelming crowd support wherever he plays. That context matters here too. Clark now has 6 PGA Tour wins to his name, including 2 U.S. Open titles, and he heads into this week's Tour Championship sitting 3rd in the FedEx Cup standings, behind only Matt Fitzpatrick and current leader Scottie Scheffler. By any measure, he's putting together one of the strongest seasons of his career. But that success has been repeatedly shadowed by these recurring moments of on-course scrutiny, moments that, fair or not, keep resurfacing every time cameras catch him assessing a difficult lie. Golf is a sport built on an honor code as much as it is on hard rules, and that's exactly why moments like this generate so much debate. There's no definitive replay angle that proves intent one way or the other, and Clark has never actually been penalized in any of these instances. But when the pattern keeps repeating itself, tournament after tournament, it's clear this is a storyline that's going to keep following him until it eventually stops happening, or until one of these moments actually does result in an official ruling against him. For now, Clark has said his piece, denied any wrongdoing directly and repeatedly, and is moving forward into the Tour Championship with a real shot at capping off an already impressive season with a FedEx Cup title. Let us know in the comments what you think. Was this just routine club testing that got blown out of proportion by the broadcast? Or do you think there's a real pattern here worth watching closely? Drop your take below. If you want to stay updated on this story and everything else happening in golf heading into the Tour Championship, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next update.